Hello students, so today I am here with my new video pollination part 2. So in my previous video I have discussed you about the different types of pollination and different adaptations of the plant for the self pollination and the cross pollination. Okay. So in this video I am going to discuss you about the different agents of pollination and pollination in some special plants like Vallisneria, Amorphophallus, Orchidophrys, Salvia and Maize. Okay. So now let us start the video. So first of all, what is pollination? So the process of transfer of pollen grain from anther to stigma of the same flower or different flower of same species is called pollination. I have discussed this definition in detail in my previous video. Okay. So now let us come to the different agents of pollination. We have already discussed that for self pollination, agents of pollination are not needed. Okay. But in case of cross pollination, different types of agents of pollinations are needed, and that can be categorized in two types. That is, the very first one is the abiotic. Abiotic means these are non-living agents that can help in the pollination. Okay. So that is, in that the very first one is the Anemophily. Anemophily means pollination by wind. Okay. That occurs in all the grasses and different plants of the Gramineae family, palm also. Second one is the Hydrophily, that is with the help of water. It occurs in most of the aquatic plants, not all but most of the aquatic plants they show hydrophily, means pollination by water. When pollination occurs with the help of living organism, then such type of agents are called as biotic agent. Biotic agent. And what are the biotic agent? Pollination may occur with the help of insect, and in such condition this type of pollination is called as entomophily. Entomophily. You know that such type of flowers, we will discuss what are the features of such type of flowers. Now next one is the ornithophily. Ornithophily means pollination with the help of the birds. When pollination occurs with the help of birds, as in case of bombex, bohemia, then it is called as a ornithophily. Next, bats also help in pollination, and such type of pollination is called as chiropterophily. Okay. By snails, if pollination occurs, it is called malicophily, and if it occurs with the help of ants, it is called as myrmecophily. Okay. So in this way we have discussed about different agents of pollination. Now let us start with the first with the insect pollinated plants. What are the features of the entomophilous flowers? So you know, just see the diagram. What features you are finding in case of rose? Rose is being pollinated with the help of insect. Okay. So you know that the insects, they are being attracted by the bright color. They are being attracted for the nectar. They are being attracted for the scents. Okay. So that's why such type of the plants that are being pollinated with the insect, they should have brightly color. They should have brightly colored. The flowers would be large, and so that they can be easily spotted by the insect. If the flowers are small, they just become arranged in a group in the form of inflorescence, so that it will be more prominent. The flowers will have characteristic foul odor or smell, good fragrance or the foul odor also to attract the insect, and the most importantly, the plants, such type of flowers shows the presence of nectar. Okay. So that the different type of insects, they busy the flower to collect the nectar. What are the most important pollinators? Pollinators, most common pollinator, insect pollinator is the bee. Okay. Except that wasp, moths, these all are the different type of the insect pollinators. Okay. So now just I am going to discuss you about a very important flower, Amorphophallus, which is the tallest type of the flower. It is tallest flower, Amorphophallus, and Amorphophallus, it is tallest and up to 6 feet height. It is up to 6 feet height. and this Amorphophallus, it is being pollinated with the help of a special type of insect, that is a beetle. This beetle, there is a mutual relationship between the Amorphophallus and the beetle. How, that we are going to discuss. The very first point I told you that this flower is very tall and it is up to 6 feet tall, 6 feet tall. Now what happens? For what reason the beetle comes to the flower? The beetles come to the flower to lay egg for oviposition. Oviposition, because you can find the flower is so tall. It has at the base, it has large surface area which is called locule. In that locule, the beetle, they are just coming to lay the egg. Okay, and while as they are coming to lay the egg, in that process it may lead to the pollination. Okay, so in that way there is a mutual beneficial relation, that the flower is getting pollinated, in return the beetles are getting place for oviposition, that is laying egg. Even after that, when pollination gets completed, after fertilization, when the fertilized egg, it just results in formation of the seed. Then after that what happens? In the meantime, even the egg of the beetle, it also matures, comes in the form of larva. Okay, so now what happens, that the seeds that has been formed, that are also being used by the beetle larva as a food. Okay, so in that way what happens, that both the plants as well as beetle, they are getting benefit from each other. Okay, so that's why it is an example of the mutualism, and the Amorphophallus and the beetle, both of them show co-evolution. Any change in structure of the Amorphophallus will not allow the beetle to come to lay the egg. Okay, so that's why it is an example of co-evolution also. In the same way, there is also symbiotic relationship between yucca and moth. They also, both of them are equally benefited. Now, as per your NCERT example, I am discussing whatever is given in your book, that I am discussing in detail. So, second one is the example given in your book is the Orchidophrys and the wasp. Orchidophrys is being pollinated by the wasp, and it is an example of sexual deceit and pseudo-copulation. In what way? That we are going to discuss. Just see, this is the flower of the Orchidophrys, and this one you can find, this flower shape is similar to that of the female wasp. The shape of the flower is similar to the female wasp. So that's why the male wasp, they come closer to the flower in confusion of a female wasp, and in this collision it results in the pollination. Okay, it results in pollination because male wasp, it is coming to the plant by thinking that the flowers are the female wasp, and in this way it results in the pollination. Okay, but so that's why it is also an example of sexual deceit, because actual there is no any sexual copulation there, but it is a deceit. So that's why it is an example of the sexual deceit as well as pseudo copulation, that you will study in the chapter interaction. This example has been given. Okay, so this is Orchidophrys and the wasp, that shows the sexual deceit and the pseudo copulation. Now come to the very important example of the Salvia. Salvia is also being pollinated by the insect. Okay, and this is a special type of example called as the turnpike or lever mechanism. So here what happens, that first of all try to understand about the Salvia. The Salvia belongs to family Labiatae. It has two corolla, it has bilabiate. Bilabiate means two leaf-like, this is the two leaf-like, this is the petals. Okay, and it has also two stamens. These stamens are also epipetalous. Epipetalous means these stamens are attached with the petals. So you can see the structure of the petals, that is stamens over here. This is the first stamen you can find here. This is the first stamen, and the second stamen is also present at the here second stamen is present. Okay. Now the point is that I have told you 2 points. The very first one, the petals, 2 petals are present, and these petals are, it is called bilabiate structure. The lower petal, the lower corolla, it acts as the platform on which the beetle can come, and the upper petal, it is little bit larger, and the upper petal shows the presence of stamen, which is fertile stamen. It has I told you that it has 2 stamen. So the stamen attached with the upper petal, it is fertile, and with the lower petal here also it has small connective. Its connective is small. It is a sterile type of stamen. Here the connective is larger. Okay. So now what happens when the bee, it just comes on the lower petal, then in that way what happens that it keeps a pressure on the upper petal, and the upper petal touches the back of the bee, and in that way what happens that the pollen grains, they just get stuck to the back portion of the bee. Now when second point about this salvia is, this plant is protandrous, means male part matures earlier. Okay, so male part matures earlier, at that time female parts are immature. So in that way when the plant is young, at that time only the stamens are getting matured, and pollen grains, they just stuck to the back of the bee. Now what happens when the plant gets matured, it becomes older, at that time only its pistil will get matured. So such type of the bee when enters in the plant that has matured pistil, so at that time what happens, from the back of this bee the pollen grains are deposited on the stigma. Okay. So this is called as the turnpike mechanism or the lever mechanism. It is a very special, that is why I have discussed about this salvia. Now next we are going to discuss about the wind pollinated flowers. What are the characteristics? Now just you can see the example is the maize plant. What characters you are finding? You are finding that the flowers of wind pollinated flowers, they do not have any specific color, they do not have any odor, but because they are being pollinated with the help of winds, so that's why lot of chances that most of the pollen grains will get lost. That's why they will produce large number of the pollen grain. So that's why here you see what are the features of such type of the plants, that they produce small colorless, odorless, nectarless flowers. Okay. So because the small flowers are there, pollen grains are also small, light and dry, so that they can be easily blown away with the help of wind. Okay. And they are produced in large number. The stigma are well exposed and large. So that why large? So that through the wind when pollen grains are coming, they may stick to the stigma. Okay. And they are also exposed. So now just look at the example of this maize plant. Here you find that the upper portion, the flowers are organized in the form of inflorescence. Okay. So here what you find that the male flowers are present at the top. It is called tassel. Okay. And the female flowers are present at the laterally at the lower portion, and they are called as the cob. Okay. So here what happens, large number of pollen grains are produced from this tassel, and they are being blown with the help of wind, and in that way it just comes on the stigma of the present at the lower portion, and in that way this stigma cobs, they just get pollinated. So very simple. Okay. Now we are discussing about the hydrophilous flowers. What are the features? Now hydrophilous flowers means aquatic plants that are being pollinated with the help of water. So even the water being the abiotic agent, it also doesn't need any specific character like the color is not needed, nectar is not needed. Okay, so in that way such type of the flowers are also without any specific color, they do not produce any nectar, they do not have any good or bad smell. Okay, but what are the features? The flowers are small and light. Flowers are small and light so that they can be easily blown away with the help of the water current. Okay. One more point I want to tell you, that it's not that all the aquatic plants are pollinated by the water. No. Many other aquatic plants like the water lily, these are being pollinated with the help of insect. Okay. Water is not very good pollinating agent. So what are the other features? The pollen grains are light and surrounded by mucilaginous covering so that it may not get wet. वो गीला नहीं हो जाए उसकी वजह से they are provided with the mucilaginous covering. Flowers are colorless and without nectar and odor, and long, sticky and unwettable stigma. Stigma are long, sticky and unwettable, and the examples are Vallisneria, Zostera, Hydrilla. Okay. So now one by one I am going to discuss you something. So this hydrophily, it may also be of two different types. If the pollination occurs above the water, it is called epihydrophily. Epi means above, hydro means water. Okay. So when pollination occurs on the surface of water, then it is called as epihydrophily, as in case of Vallisneria. Clear? And hypohydrophily. Second one is the hypohydrophily. Hypo means below. So if the pollination occurs inside the water, then it is called as hypohydrophily, as in case of Zostera. Zostera is the sea grass, and here it occurs inside the water. So now I am discussing how in case of Zostera it occurs. In case of Zostera, their pollen grains are long, elongated, you can say needle-like or ribbon-like. Okay, and without any axine. The stigma is also long. Inside the water, what happens that the pollen grains being ribbon shaped, it just coils around the stigma. It coils around the stigma, and inside the water only pollination occurs. Okay. So this is about the Zostera. I have discussed that it occurs inside the water, its pollen grains are long, ribbon shaped, and stigma is also long. The long pollen grain, it coils around the stigma के around में coil करता है, और coiling करने के साथ ही उसका pollination हो जाता है. Clear? Water के अंदर में ही होता है. That's why it is hypohydrophily. Okay. Now I have given you one example of the aquatic plant which is not pollinated by water but by insect, that is the water lily. Question is asked, difference between the pollination of the Vallisneria and the water lily. That's why I have discussed. Okay. Now in detail we are going to discuss about the pollination in case of the Vallisneria, called as the tape grass. Now the very first point about the Vallisneria is that Vallisneria is monosexual, unisexual. It is unisexual plant. Okay. Dioecious or the unisexual. Now what happens? So it means that it has separate male and female plants are separate. Okay, separate male and female plants. So now here see what happens, that this is, you find that this is the female plant and this is the male plant. Okay, male plant produces the flower. This flower get detached from the male plant and it floats on the surface of water. These are the flowers, male flowers floating on the surface of water. Okay. Now what happens? Female flower has long coiled style. You can see this long coiled style till the flower is immature. The style remains coiled and the flower remains inside the water. Just see here, this is the immature flower. So it is highly coiled and it is inside the water. But once the flower gets matured, then this style gets uncoiled. Just see, this is the uncoiled. It is uncoiled and it brings the flower on the surface of the water. Okay, here you find it is on the surface of water, and on the surface of water the male flowers are present, already they are present. So in that way what happens, on the surface of water only the pollination occurs, and once the pollination get completed, then after that further the style gets coiled and the pollinated flower comes inside the water. The fertilization in case of Vallisneria occurs inside the water only. Okay. So this is all about the Vallisneria. Most of the time the questions are being asked about the Vallisneria. Okay. So thank you very much, and if you like the video, kindly subscribe and give a thumb impression. Thank you very much, and tell me what do you want, which topics should be discussed. Okay. So if you will send me the message, that will be helpful for me to prepare the videos. Thank you very much.